To be joined now by the Tennessee Republican Congressman Tim Burchett, who is joining me from Capitol Hill. Congressman, always a pleasure to talk to you. I want to begin where we left off, and that's on that news that Secretary Noem is moving to ban travel from approximately 30 countries. Do you think that's an effective immigration policy?
Yes, sir, I do, considering the circumstances we're in. You remember everybody was mad at Trump when he banned Chinese folks during COVID, and that could have eliminated a lot of pain and death in this country. So, yeah, I think it is. We've got some bad actors. They put 30 on the list. I suspect there could be a whole lot more. We can't continue to be the dumping ground of these countries. Yeah, they send a lot of great people over, but we know, in fact, that they, in the past, have emptied out a lot of bad areas, and they drop them into our country and expect them to assimilate. And as we've seen in Minnesota and other areas, they do not assimilate.
Well, the president also said that immigrants are, quote, incapable of loving our country, and they should be removed. What does that mean in your mind? And how do you even quantify something like that?
Well, I think if they immediately take on an anti-American attitude, you know, we have members of Congress that come from other countries, and yet they continue to dump on our country and tell us how bad we are, yet the countries that they came from are literally war zones, and people are clamoring to get out. So I think there's a lot of discretion in what he said, and I think that when it comes down to it and they vet these folks in these countries, that we'll have a better answer to that.
There does seem to be some inconsistency here, though, because the president said that he's still in favor of legal immigration, saying this afternoon that people have to come into this country legally. But at the same time, the administration is going to review the status of green card holders from nearly 20 countries. I mean, the green card holders go through some of the most rigorous vetting process, and that is also a legal process. How can you be in favor of a legal immigration process, but then go after the people that have gone and done it the right way?
Let's just be honest about our immigration system. President Trump is doing an excellent job of reviewing that, and I think that's what he should. But our immigration system, originally, you have a green card, you come in and work, seasonal work, then you'd go home. Again, another great government program that's been abused, and we've allowed it to be abused. Washington has allowed it just out of pure greed. You know, the Republicans want the workers in the factories, and the Democrats want the voters, and we can't afford, and working folks end up paying the tab on both of it. So there's plenty of blame to go around, but I think President Trump is going, as usual, I think he's going about it in the right way.
If I can ask you now, sir, about this situation with the National Guard shooting here in Washington, D.C. You have said that the evacuees that the suspect was a part of weren't properly vetted. But our reporting suggests that he was part of a CIA-backed group. The suspect was given extensive vetting at multiple different stages before he came into the country, was also vetted for his asylum claim, which happened under the Trump administration. Have you seen specific information that these type of evacuees were given no vetting whatsoever?
As a matter of fact, I was briefed this morning by an Afghan who actually fought on our side, who's been a dear friend to me for quite some time. And as the CIA does, and a lot of times they go into these areas, and some of these areas that went in Afghanistan were areas that we didn't want to send our troops in, that were vicious on both sides. And the CIA, of course, goes in there and hires the thugs. And, of course, there are thugs. They're loyal to us. But it's kind of hard to turn that switch off. And we guaranteed them asylum and, in fact, some folks citizenship. And they've come into our country. And now we're finding that some of them are going back in overseas, joining the Taliban or rejoining the Taliban, and then coming back to America. So we've got a real problem. We've got close to, by some estimates, over 1,000 members of the Taliban in our dadgum country that we don't know where they're at. And thank goodness for President Trump, because he's the first one in a long time that just called it out. And, you know, and I'm not worried about all this. Everybody says, oh, he's doing executive orders. He's overstepping Congress. Well, brother, Congress doesn't have the guts to do a dadgum thing. You know it, and I know it. Both parties. We'll have hearings, and we'll blame the other side, and they'll blame us. We'll write a strong letter, and then we'll all go home claiming victory, and nothing will happen, and Americans will continue to die. We finally got administration. Yeah, it's offending people, and people are ticked off about it, but I don't like seeing Americans die, especially innocent Americans.
All right, let me change topics now and talk about this second strike on survivors of an alleged drug trafficking boat in the Caribbean. Both armed services committees are calling for increased oversight. Would you like to see the Foreign Affairs Committee launch its own probe into the incident?
Oh, I'm sure we will, brother. Again, and 6 weeks later, we're going to issue a strong letter and slap somebody on the wrist. Again, Congress is pretty ineffective. It's that way. I've been here 8 years under Pelosi and under others, and it's always been the same dadgum thing. We'll stomp up a little bit, create a little dust, and we won't do anything. I would like to see, as the lady said that was on your host panel there, just a few minutes ago, right before me, I'd like to see all the details first before I cast any judgment. But, you know, you've got these foreign affairs committees that they have stock portfolios, members that are invested in our missile defense system. They come back and tell you how good it is for the economy, for war and killing. It ain't good for anybody, brother. My dad fought in the Second World War. I know the cost of that. My mama lost her brother. And nobody, all it wins is the fat cats on K Street and some legislators and a few lobbyists, and it stinks.
Okay. All right. I want to talk to you now about what's happening in your home state today, that special election in Tennessee, which people thought is going to be much more competitive than many thought. Do you think this could be a warning bell for your fellow Republicans?
It's always a warning bell, brother, and there's only two ways to run: scared and unopposed. And I've won with 14 or 15 points. I actually won by 1 point better than President Trump. So if you're watching this, President, I misspoke. But all kidding aside, yeah, it's going to be tight. It's going to be too tight. It's an off-election year. Republicans tend to vote on Election Day traditionally, and the Democrats and liberals will vote early voting and on Election Day. So the turnout is going to be lighter than expected. But honestly, 12% of the population votes, and that's what you get. 45% of evangelical Christians, which I associate myself with, vote. 30% don't vote. 30% of gun owners don't vote. She's a homegrown Marxist. She was educated in Knoxville, Tennessee, where I come from. You know, I always hear everybody talk about the folks moving out all the blue states and bringing their values down here. That's not the case. They're refugees, man. They're trying to escape that craziness of New York and Los Angeles. And they're warning us about what's going on. She is a homegrown Marxist. She's motivated. She's got a good ground game. And I'm very worried. I think Matt's the best candidate I've seen. He should win by 5 or 6 points, though.
Okay. To be clear, she does not define herself as a Marxist. That's a tag that you're putting on her. But, Congressman, we'll have to see how this election goes here tonight. And I appreciate you being on as always. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, brother.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.